what is supervision. So I hope to give you some food for thought and some ideas that you can reflect on your breakout sessions later on. So just let me try to find my slides first. Can you now see them?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now I can't see any of you. So if you have have some hands up or comments or anything, just maybe someone, Hanna or someone, can give the floor, because I would like for you to comment and give you and ask questions also in the middle of this presentation or this talk, maybe more, so that you don't have to wait until the end, and you can also write your comments in the chat. So here I have put on some general aims of the workshop here. So I hope that today we can together reflect on supervision and what constitutes good supervision, and also we can together think and so what would be the good supervision practices, and also share these good practices with each other. So this is what I hope to happen during this workshop today. And I have been teaching these courses at the University of Helsinki for a long time for university lecturers. So I just wish to bring out some main ideas, because this is a very broad topic. This what is supervision. So there could be so many things I could talk about, but maybe this is just a scratch and something that we can then work on and deepen together. So let's start first with the question, what is supervision and what is meant by it if we look at for example, research literature, or how is it defined, that what is the main goal of supervision? So to put it very simply, the central goal of supervision is to support the active agency of the supervisee. So this means that then the main task of the supervisor then becomes to support the supervisee in this process, so that they gradually become experts and owners of their own process and get the skills and the expertise that they need in order to be, for example, independent researchers. So this figure sort of depicts that even if in the beginning the gap between the supervisor and the supervisee might be quite large, during the process this gap diminishes, and hopefully by the end of the process the supervisee's own agency expands and they become the experts. So then if we look at more precisely what is then academic supervision, it's very similar to what I was just saying about the general definition of supervision, but the main aim is there to support the students' own independent and scientific thinking and professional development. And it's always an interactive process between the supervisor and the student. So it's a social process, and it's always a situation where different conceptions of supervision and research and learning meet, and this is also the part that makes it kind of complicated, and that's what I will discuss here a bit more, because when the supervision or in the supervision context, there is always this sort of a situation. So it's the above ball represents the supervisee who comes to the situation with various knowledge and skills and various motivations and self-efficacy beliefs and self-regulation skills. And even though, for example, PhD students are already a quite selected group of students that they already possess many skills, but still we know that even the PhD students vary a lot they have very different motivations to do their PhD. They have very different skills and knowledge and also skills to proceed with their process. So this is something that always affects the situation. And also the supervisor comes there or is in the situation with their own backgrounds. So the supervisors have their own experiences of supervision and their own perceptions of what is good supervision and what is the main role of the supervisor or the supervisee. And so when these different perceptions of the supervisor and supervisee meet, it's always becomes a unique situation. So there might be very different expectations and hopes and perceptions, and then the main thing becomes is that how to start this process together and how to find out who we are dealing with and how are we working together in this situation. So it's always a sort of a unique situation, and there was in this, when we asked about your expectations for this workshop, many of you commented that they would like to have some tricks and tips of how to supervise. But the tricky thing is that it's always a sort of unique situation. So there are no tips and tricks that would work for everyone, because everyone is there with their different backgrounds. But the main focus is then how to navigate in this situation and how to create some kind of mutual understanding and mutual process that you are working on together. So, as I said, I don't think there is no direct sort of answer of how to make every supervision process work, but there are some main principles that might be defined as good supervision practices, or at least these principles also apply to how to support the agency of the supervisees. So let's start with the first principle over here, which is the transparency. So if we think that regarding that my previous slide, that there's always a unique person and unique relationship that you are dealing with. So one of the main principles is to try to make that sort of a process as transparent as possible. So this means that all the goals and the interests and expectations and the roles and responsibilities should be discussed together quite transparently and at the very early stage of the supervision process, because this already creates a sort of a mutual ground that you can start working on together. Then the second principle is that the supervisor's own goals should be taken as a starting point. So it's very important from a supervisor's views, but also from the supervisee's views to sort of know what are the supervisee's own goals. So what do they want to achieve, and within what time period, and how would they like to achieve that? And this is also one process of creating this mutual understanding and how to navigate in that supervision process. And of course, these core processes should be interactivity and dialogue, where both partners' views are taken into account and different perspectives are respected and heard and discussed openly. And well, as I said, this individual approach refers to that it's always a unique situation, and that should be also taken into account. So it's more like a partnership and trying to create trust and transparency and all those things into account and discuss them very openly and to get the idea and get to know each other better in this process. So as I earlier said, that when we think about the supervision, and so it's always one thing that affects a lot is that supervisors' own views and conceptions of supervision always influence the supervision process. So that's always influencing the way they see the supervision, or we as supervisors see the supervision process and the way we supervise. And often these ways of supervision are quite routinized and maybe even difficult to identify and verbalize. And they are also very strongly influenced by own experiences. So it's very easy to repeat the ways in which you have been supervised in the past. And especially in challenging situations, it's very there's a tendency to resort to familiar ways in that sort of situations because that's the sort of a safe way to deal with those situations. So that's why it's very important to start to identify your own conceptions and your own practices and start learning sort of new ways and skills. And that is what I hope to do here together with you in this workshop, so that either you are a student or you are a supervisor already, to start reflecting on what you think is supervision and what would be the good supervision practice. So I will next bring out some points of reflection, and you can sort of think what you think of these points. So one thing that is usually when we have been doing research on the supervisors and what they think is the main focus of supervision is that we find this division between the main focus is on the product or in the process or both. So what I mean by this is that the supervisors differ quite a bit in this sense. So they differ in the way they see the main point of supervision. So is the main focus in the supervision process on having a completed thesis that refers to the product in due time? Or is the focus more on the learning process of the supervisee and the skills that they should be learning during the process? So this is sort of a division that we always find in these research. And of course, when we talk about the academic supervision, the product is always there because the thesis has to be completed, and there are the requirements from the institution that also draw attention to this. But the point is here is that it shouldn't be the only focus, but the focus should also be shifted towards the process. So what should be learned while doing the thesis? What are the skills that should be learned, and how could you as a supervisor support those skills? So a good process is more than just having a high quality thesis or thesis completed in a short period of time, but other sort of very important skills are learned during that process. So that's what I would like you to think about, that when you supervise or when you are doing your thesis as a student, which one do you focus on more? Just because this same division has been found regarding the students, that they just want to complete the thesis as quickly as possible without any without having thinking about the process. What should I be learning, and how should I go about it? Then I will bring another view on this reflection. So sort of how to supervise, and so this is concerned with the ways to supervise, and this is what I will be presenting is based on a very large body of research where there have been where Sanna Vehviläinen, our professor here at the University of Eastern Finland, was doing research on supervisory interaction and what happens in those situations. And it was found that the supervisors use very different kinds of courses of action in these supervisory situations. So it's not always a very conscious choice what they are doing, and how or they don't choose very consciously that now I'm doing this or now I'm doing that, but when you think about supervision and how to sort of improve your own quality of supervision, it's important that you become aware of these own courses of action or orientations. And I have found this also as a very good way to reflect on own supervision practices. So there has been 4 supervisory orientations that have been identified. So there's a problem-solving orientation, explorative orientation, supportive orientation, and then instructive orientation. And I will introduce all of these shortly, these first 3, because they are maybe the ones that are the most evident usually in supervision practices. So this problem-solving orientation is a very sort of a typical supervisory orientation, and it's at the very core of the expert work. So here in this, the focus is on solving problems, and this is very typical in a supervisory relationship, that there's this question-answer format, that the supervisee asks a question, and usually if the supervisor has the answer for that question, it's very easy to directly give an answer to that. So here in this sort of orientation, the advice and giving advice and giving feedback and especially corrective feedback are the very core processes of this, and also this providing supervisees some alternatives for action. And so this is a very typical way of when you think about the supervisory relationship. This is usually what happens. The advice is giving, alternatives are provided, and also corrective feedback. But the main challenge in this sort of approach is the balance between giving direct advice and supporting supervisees' own thinking. So, because if always the supervisee asks and you give direct advice, does the supervisee really learn how to do things on their own and how to do that same thing the next time? So as a very simple example, if my 7-year-old asks me what is 1 + 4 and I give them the answer 5, does he know how to do it the next time? Or should I first try to make him think how to solve that problem? So as I said, this giving direct advice is a very central element of supervision, but it shouldn't be the only orientation, because if we think about that definition that the supervision should be about supporting supervisees' own thinking and autonomy, this might be a bit hidden or compromised in this sort of, if this is the only orientation. So I would like you to also think about that we know that in order for the advice to be successful, it would be important to first hear the supervisee and their views and explore their own perspectives before giving advice, and also include the supervisee in solving these problems. And also feedback always needs sort of arguments if we want that feedback to support the sort of the future situations, similar future situations. So that should be both the feedback should be sort of give corrective advice, how to do things differently, but also about why and giving sort of arguments for that. And also, one of the things that is often forgotten is that when giving direct advice, it's always sort of good to try to expose students' understanding afterwards. So ask them, how did they understand, and what did they actually gain from this advice, and how will they go about it, to sort of have future orientation in this. So I would still like to emphasize that I'm not saying that giving direct advice is not a good thing, because it's a very important thing, but to more think about how to give that advice, and is that the first thing that should be done when advice is asked for. So the second sort of orientation is called the exploratory or inquiry orientation in a supervisory situation. And here the focus is more on hearing and exploring supervisees' views with questions. So it's about, as I said earlier, it's more about supporting the supervisee's own thinking and exploring, for example, how did the supervisee make the choices or conclusions, to also gain shared understanding of what the student is struggling with and what sort of maybe misconceptions or something there might be. And this is, as I said, about hearing the supervisee's views before giving advice. And then the main practices for in this sort of explorative orientation is the dialogue and the promoting questions. So asking the students to tell and describe and explain and argue and so on. So this is one of the ways to also explore where you are and what should be done next. And also, it has been shown that if you want the advice to be sort of effective, it would be good to first explore the supervisee's perspective about and where they are going at the moment. Then the last one is about the supportive orientation. So focusing on empathy and acceptance of the supervisee's experience and sort of creating a space that promotes collaboration. And the main practices in this sort of orientation is listening actively and remaining actively present or showing empathy or sort of normalizing the challenging situations. So just for example, like showing that if the student is struggling with something, that this is part of the process, how could we go about it, and sort of just creating this sort of atmosphere where we together try to solve these situations that come to our way. And so sort of as a summary of these orientations, they are not like exclusive, but usually in even within one supervision situations, there are different types of orientations present. And so then the key when you as supervisors work in that situation is sort of being aware of how to change orientations and how to time them. When is there a good time for giving advice? When is there a good time for just supporting the student? When is there a good time to explore what the students thinking? So first, to sort of navigate between these different orientations is one of the sort of keys to start also thinking about your own supervision practices or what happens in the situation. So here are some rules of thumb, I might say, that how this could be used, but this supportive orientation sort of could be at the beginning to open a sort of a common and safe space for collaboration, whereas this inquiry orientations fosters a deeper understanding of where you are at the moment and what are the relevant questions that you are working with. And then the problem-solving orientation after that enables the solutions and gives sort of advice for future actions. One last point I would like to bring out also to this is that it's important to see the supervision not only as a sort of a solo activity, and we will hear some interesting experiences in the afternoon of the co-supervision process, but also we know that those students who have several supervisors, they're usually better engaged in the research community, and also they have a lower risk for prolonging their PhD studies. And that is also based on that you can get different kind of support from different supervisors. And then the main thing is that how you together coordinate that process. And we will hear a bit more about that in the afternoon. And also that as a supervisor, it would be very important to also try to promote that the supervisee is part of some group. That we know that the peers and the research group is really important for the supervisees because it also offers multiple sources of support, and especially emotional support and a sense of belonging, which are both very important when you do your, for example, a master's thesis or PhD thesis, which is a very long process. So how, as a supervisor, could you also enhance that part, that the supervisee is part of a group and part of a has a sense of belonging to a larger community. So here, as a summary of what I was talking about today, here are a summary of some good supervision principles. There are many more, and we have some time also for you to add here if you want to add some principles that are missing here. But just to mention a few, it would be important that there is that the frequent and sufficient guidance is provided, because we know that that it's very essential to have frequent supervision, because if the supervision there's too long time between the supervision sessions, it doesn't keep the process going. So having frequent and sufficient guidance is one key factor that we know is influential. But again, I would like to go back to the first point, that it's always a unique and individual process. Some students need a lot more frequently these guidance and supervision sessions, whereas the others do not need it that much. And that also is a thing that should be discussed that together and have a sort of a mutual understanding of how often would it be good to meet. And then what I talked about today is have an open and honest and ongoing discussion. So promoting this transparency in the process, to have a mutual understanding of what of each party's expectations and roles and struggles, and also to taking those respectfully and having a dialogue between these things. And also one key thing is to try to support the supervisee's own active agency, and this relates to what I was talking about, about giving advice or supporting own thinking, and so how to balance between those two. And then, of course, we know that the students need different types of support. Sometimes they do need direct advice. Sometimes they do need advice regarding the many practical questions, and sometimes they need emotional support, and sometimes they need something else. So trying to provide different types of support, and if you cannot provide it, trying to give some advice where that support could be found. And then also focusing both on having the product done, but also on the process that is involved. So focusing also what should be learned and how to support the learning process, and what are the skills that should be learned during the process. And then this is what I have mentioned many times, but understanding the individuality of the process. So all the supervisors are unique persons, and that should be understood as the basis for the whole supervision. That how to know what is their motivation, or what is their skills, and having discussions around that. And then having these several supervisors and a peer research group if possible. So how to sort of try to take that into account. And others, of course, there are many other good supervision principles as well, but maybe you can also share your ideas on this. Yes, but this is what I had to say today, and I think we have some time for discussions or comments or something else that we'd like to before we go to the breakout groups.
Just tell I just mentioned that there are no questions on chat now.
Mm-hmm.
If I can start.
Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking this when you said that some supervisors, they need more time than some others. But how do you then think that you can keep balance? Because we know that supervisors, when they discuss with each other, that then they can hear that, oh, that the supervisor has spent so much time with this one person, and not I haven't discussed with her or him so much. So how do you think about this theme? That how you solve if you know that there has been this kind of discussion among supervisors?
So sorry. So the question is that between the supervisors that. Or can you repeat what you?
Yeah, because you said that then supervisor can provide supervision for someone more than for someone else regarding the time. But so does it bring any challenges then?
Yeah, well, I speak from my own experiences that regarding my own supervisors, that as I said, it's some supervisors need a lot of different kind of support. They need to have like frequent meetings, and they need to have the set deadlines and so on. And for the others, they don't even want to have these sort of meet so frequently or have them or have set deadlines, but they go quite independently in this process. So then, of course, I have to try to discuss that with them uniquely, like that. What are their needs and what do they expect, and what sort of working rules we have together. But so I haven't found that very challenging myself, because I always have tried to have a discussion with each supervisor about their needs and their expectations and so on. But I don't know, maybe someone else also can share how they navigate with this difference between the supervisors.
Yeah, could I come in there?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's Vincent O'Connor from Athlone, and I've actually been, supervising research for a long number of years. And what we do in Athlone, and I kind of thought it might be a good idea across the Run EU structure. What we do is, when there are new supervisors in my area, the area is social care, and it happens a lot that new supervisors turn up. I hold a seminar nearly every year just to introduce the supervisors to the what's necessary on the relevant research. And we do this at undergraduate and indeed postgraduate level. So we have a specific structure for the undergraduate project and a specific structure for a postgraduate project, which the supervisor wouldn't really know. A new supervisor wouldn't really understand what we're looking for. So at the start of every academic year, as new supervisors, or even some older supervisors, and we're not talking about age, we're talking about experience here. As they come in, I will hold maybe 2-hour seminar, maybe over 2 weeks, maybe over longer, just to explain to the supervisors what their role is. And then I lecture students, and part of my lectures then will be to explain to the students what the role of the supervisor is and what their relationship with the supervisor should be, professional, etc. And, I just thought this could be something that could be developed across the EU, the Run EU system. Just throwing it out there. I don't know if people agree with me or not, but I tell you, I just want to say that at an early stage. I have to drop out to another meeting now, which is going on from 10 to 12. So apologies for that, folks. I hope that was helpful to some people. Okay. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. I think that sounds like a very good practice that we could all learn from. And maybe I'm seeing Shibon's question regarding this. What advice would you give to early stage supervisors when both themselves and their students are new to the research program? Maybe something what Vincent was just suggesting could be a solution for that as well.
Yeah, definitely, Tele. And I think we've all learned through experience that every single supervision role that you take on is different depending on yourself, the candidate, the supervisee, and the research project itself. And I think that you spoke about the different orientations, and they change from day one as you move through the research program. I think any experienced researcher would agree with that. So what's interesting, it's very interesting to hear Vincent and what he suggests and what they do implement in Athlone. I was going to ask you about mentoring. So do you think that mentoring is a good idea for supervisors who are new to the process? Because, it's a very long process. You could be supervising one student for 3 to 4 years. So, the needs of the student changes, and your own circumstances as a supervisor might change as you go through that process. So do you think that a mix of perhaps that the seminars that Vincent says with mentoring would be a good idea?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would be very good if that was possible, because I think always sharing experiences and sharing best practices is I think that would be very, very good sort of support structure in this. So yeah, that's definitely something that should be thought about. Yes, Sarah, do you have a hand up?
Well, actually, I would like to follow up on this, because we're actually doing this in our master program, that when we have new supervisor, that the supervisor first joins 3 other people. So 3 experienced supervisors. We don't have a lot of students, but a very, very international group, like 40, 50 students. And accordingly, also, the students are very different. So the levels and the expectations and what kind of education system they're used to. So, and accordingly, also, I mean, we don't mind that supervisors do things differently. So what we are doing is, if people are new supervisors, they're first getting assigned as second graders, and they can kind of work with 3 other supervisors to kind of see what they are doing. And then we have those calibration sessions, in fact, where we regularly discuss, okay, what are we doing? What can we do better? Maybe do we have if we have big differences within the students, what can we do to support these more? So, and that works quite well, that as a new supervisor, you kind of get a bit of feeling like, what do others do? And do I like this as well or not? So I know for me that was very helpful. I mean, by now I'm supervising 10 years as well. But like when I started, just to have exactly this mentoring thing was just very good. Also to see yourself what maybe you don't want to do or what you want to do.
Thank you. I think that's a very good that if you have that sort of thing there, that because it's very, as I said, it's very easy to, if you don't have that sort of support from other supervisors or this sort of mentoring system, I think it's very easy to resort to just the ways that you have been supervised so it's when you see other supervision situations, it's you also learn from them a lot. And I can also comment that in when I was having these supervision courses at the University of Helsinki, one of the tasks for them was to go and observe other people's supervision situations, and that they always found very helpful because they would see how the other supervisors are working in supervision situations, and they could gain a lot for themselves as well. So I think that having these sort of these structures would be very good. Okay, so there's one comment. Yeah, okay, very good comments. Do anyone else want to comment something? Is Vincent, do you have a?
No, I just to explain, I just have to leave now at 10 o'clock. But just to explain again, what was important for us is we have a uniform structure. So, you know, what we do for the undergraduates is we have, for instance, they have to develop a research question. They have to develop aims and objectives, write the literature first, methodology, and it's really for the details of the structure and what we expect in the contents. That's the real point of the seminar, because some supervisor will be coming from different areas. For instance, they write the methodology first and they put the literature review next. We have a limit of 3 objectives. This is just purely for uniformity, that all students have to write 3 objectives. We asked them to canvass 20 individuals, so that all supervisors know the structure and the details of what all students are expected to do. And supervisors coming from different areas will have different expectations from their own experience. Naturally, it's quite natural, quite normal. And the point of the seminar is more or less to teach people what we expect from our students, you know. Okay, thank you very much, folks. Unfortunately, I have to leave.
Thank you, Vincent.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, I think it's now time for our breakout session.